Hello. I wanted to talk about two items today. The first is going to be a discussion about two phenomenal podcasts called MacroVoices that were done in the last 2 weeks of December. It outlined the advantages of nuclear energy and the technological advancements that have been made since the last nuclear uh, facilities were built. I'm going to talk a little bit about the details of those two podcasts to save you the time from going there or to give you a preview of the high quality that they represented. And the other topic is the US dollar and interest rates, which since September the 16th, interest rates on the 10-year Treasury were at 3.62%. Today, they've jumped to 4.765%, over 100 basis points. The 10-year is a really important benchmark for interest rates around the world. And when the largest economy with the reserve currency interest rates jump that much, there are a lot of implications. One is a lower liquidity. And because so many of the global assets are priced in US dollars, there's enormous pressure on those items, oil, gold, Bitcoin, as well as other commodities. Secondly, the dollar strengthens dramatically, and that too has made almost a 10% move since the end of September. 27th, the DXY, which is the dollar as against a basket of other currencies, was trading at $100.16. And it's an index, it's not in dollars, but 100.16, and it's jumped to 109.7. These two often create credit problems and they create liquidity problems. The first element is that all of those pressure the US economy. And so while we're seeing these hot numbers and they're causing interest rates to go up, hot jobs numbers, GDP, inflation expectations, all of these are moving up. This move in the dollar and interest rates is a reaction to that. That is a self-correcting mechanism. It will be putting downward pressure on economic activity. And a 10% move in the dollar in just a few months is really an enormous and really gigantic move. In China, they've had a similar situation, except yields there have declined dramatically because of a slowdown in economic activity. But the relative performance of the US economy against the rest of the world has been extremely favorable, and it will likely continue to be very favorable pressure, putting continued upward pressure on the dollar. I'm going to be doing a lot more work on all of this with future guests, so stay tuned for some upcoming interviews that I've got and roundtable discussions with some really interesting people. Now let's talk a little bit about this potential breakthrough in the whole climate change argument. For nearly 275 years, since about 1750, human progress has been inextricably linked to our ability to harness energy. The Industrial Revolution marked the beginning of an unprecedented era, where each major advance in human prosperity was either enabled or perhaps even caused by innovations in energy technology. From steam power to coal to oil to electricity and nuclear fission, our capacity to generate and utilize energy has consistently expanded to meet the needs of economic growth. One of the deepest sources of pessimism about our children's future stems from what appears to be an insurmountable conflict. Continuing this centuries-long march of progress requires ever-increasing amounts of energy. Yet, many believe our primary energy sources are sowing the seeds of environmental catastrophe. As climate change activists gain political influence, their push to reduce fossil fuel consumption, well-intentioned as it may be, threatens to choke off the very engine of progress that has lifted billions from poverty. Today, I want to explore a possible technological path through this dilemma, drawing from a fascinating two-part discussion that suggests we may not have to choose between prosperity and planetary health. Rather than conduct my own interview on my channel on this complex topic, I'm directing readers to a recent MacroVoices double podcast episode, 2 hours each, featuring host Eric Townsend and Thomas Jan Peterson, the founder and CEO of Copenhagen Atomics, a company that offers a nuclear technology that they believe can help solve this problem. In the interest of transparency, Townsend discloses his position as an angel investor in Copenhagen Atomics, and I'm not qualified to evaluate the company's investment merits, but these two podcasts give significant information that is not available elsewhere for anyone to evaluate on their own. The following is a summary of what they discuss, and I hope you find it as educational as I did. With the incoming Trump administration's focus on nuclear alternatives, this may be a good base of knowledge for news that will be coming on this front.
This show is being brought to you by our sponsor, Trueflation. Professional investors and economists, and probably any casual observers, know that government inflation statistics are only an approximation of what real inflation is. Not only that, but the government has a conflict of interest because high inflation can be so damaging to the economy, the deficit, and our $34 trillion in debt. Trueflation collects over 13 million pricing data points. Most are updated daily to reveal inflation with precision for asset managers, governments, companies, and the general public. Check them out at trueflation.com.
There's a chart that they use that shows the history of energy use. It shows that roughly $5 trillion of investment in wind and solar have provided only about 5% of global energy needs. Meanwhile, fossil fuel consumption continued its relentless climb and continues to this day. Climate activists would achieve far more success by acknowledging humanity's growing energy needs alongside their push for fossil fuel reductions. The solution must be additive, not just subtractive. And by using the information in these two podcasts, it shows that we can create enormous amounts of energy without adding anything to carbon in the atmosphere, enabling a vast reduction in fossil fuel uses. Energy returned on investment, EROI, is a measure that helps explain why some energy solutions drive economic growth better than others. Essentially, it measures the units of energy required to extract units of energy available for use. In the beginning of the oil discovery phase, coal then to oil, this ratio skyrocketed and enabled a lot of the rapid development in modern society. These returns for oil and gas have declined over time as we've had to access harder to reach deposits. Carbon credit systems attempt to further reduce fossil fuels' effective EROI by increasing usage costs and dampening returns. See my interview a few weeks ago with Triangle Digital CEO Darren Wolfberg entitled Carbon Capitalism. It was posted on December 20th. Real progress demands energy sources with fundamentally superior EORI. To understand why this challenge is more complex than many realize, we need to look at how humanity actually uses energy. You can see here that electricity generation, the focus of most clean energy discussions, represents only 38% of global energy use. Even powering all electricity generation with wind and solar would leave 62% of energy needs unaddressed. Industrial process heat presents a particular challenge at 22% of global energy use. Steel and cement manufacturing require temperatures above 1400 degrees Celsius. Converting fossil fuel heat to electricity and back wastes over half the energy. Electric vehicles improve efficiency, but electrifying industrial heating creates enormous waste. Transportation fuels account for 27% of energy use. Electric passenger vehicles show promise, but long-haul aviation remains impractical for battery power. Current unforeseeable battery technology can't match the required energy density. Even residential and commercial heating at 8% creates unique problems. Wind and solar's intermittent nature necessitates massive battery installations for heating through long winter nights or cloudy days, an expensive and resource-intensive solution that damages EROI. Over 1 billion people live without basic necessities like refrigeration, running water, or reliable electricity. Lifting these populations from poverty requires new energy production. Simply constraining energy use isn't viable if we care about both human poverty and environmental protection. If wind and solar struggle with just electricity generation, how can we possibly address the full spectrum of global energy needs? Recent innovations in nuclear technology offer solutions that could tackle multiple challenges simultaneously, from industrial heat to waste management to economic viability. Recent innovations in nuclear technology offer promising solutions. Unlike wind and solar with the relatively low EROI ratios, advanced nuclear designs achieve energy returns that rival or exceed the golden age of fossil fuels. This high EROI translates directly into economic viability. Conventional nuclear plants use water as coolant, requiring extremely high pressure, around 150 atmospheres, to prevent boiling. This necessitates massive containment structures and complex safety systems. These plants typically convert less than 5% of their fuel's energy into power, creating significant waste storage requirements. Their complexity leads to steadily rising costs and construction times often reaching 10 to 15 years. Generation 4 nuclear designs tackle these limitations through various innovations. TerraPower and Okla develop sodium-cooled fast reactors. X-Energy focuses on high-temperature gas-cooled designs. Small modular reactor, or SMR, manufacturers aim to reduce costs through standardization and factory production. Each approach offers distinct advantages. Fear dominated nuclear energy discussions for decades and drove ever-increasing regulatory burdens and costs for water-cooled reactors. Data shows, however, conventional nuclear power caused far fewer deaths per unit of energy than coal, oil, or gas power generation. The nuclear industry responded with innovations, making many traditional concerns physically impossible through fundamental design changes, as this chart shows. These advances transform the risk equation. Modern designs physically cannot melt down. In modern molten salt designs, the fuel already exists in liquid form mixed with salt. System power or cooling loss triggers automatic gravity drainage of liquid fuel salt mixture into the specially designed tanks. The mixture spreads out and naturally cools, stopping the nuclear reaction. The physics makes catastrophic meltdown impossible. Beyond safety, the economics of advanced nuclear technology are compelling. This comparison shows how advanced reactors, particularly thorium breeder designs, could potentially deliver clean energy at $20 to $40 per megawatt hour, lower than even coal-fired power plants, while requiring far less construction time than conventional nuclear facilities. The fuel cost differences are particularly striking. $50,000 to $300,000 per year versus hundreds of millions for fossil fuel plants. While the first MacroVoices interview episode examines various Generation 4 technologies, the second focuses specifically on thorium molten salt reactors. These designs use liquid fuel dissolved in molten salt, operating at atmospheric pressure and higher temperatures than water-cooled reactors. This approach addresses multiple challenges simultaneously. 1, providing both electricity and high-temperature process heat. 2, achieving superior fuel efficiency. 3, enabling simpler, inherently safe operation. 4, dramatically reducing waste storage requirements. And 5, allowing faster, less expensive construction. Thorium molten salt reactors overcome historical nuclear power limitations. The safety improvements extend beyond just meltdown prevention. These reactors consume existing nuclear waste as fuel, potentially eliminating long-term storage challenges. Atmospheric pressure operation eliminates massive containment structures. The liquid fuel allows continuous removal of fission products that would otherwise poison the nuclear reaction. The economic advantages stand out sharply. A conventional nuclear plant requires around $10 billion in capital costs and takes 10 to 15 years to build. Advanced modular designs could be mass manufactured for a fraction of the cost. Copenhagen Atomics estimates their 100 megawatt thermal reactors could be produced for under 10 million euros each when they achieve scale. Waste management sees revolutionary improvements. Rather than creating waste requiring 100,000-year storage, thorium reactors can consume existing nuclear waste. This reduces storage requirements down to 300 years for the small amount of remaining fission products. Many fission products have valuable medical and industrial applications as well, potentially transforming these liabilities into assets. The technology shows immense promise, but widespread adoption faces both opportunities and challenges. Growing policy support for nuclear innovation focuses primarily on SMRs, though most designs still use conventional technology rather than more advanced approaches. Section 123 of the Atomic Energy Act currently requires countries seeking nuclear cooperation with the U.S. to forego fuel recycling capabilities, a policy created in a different era that now hinders deployment of advanced reactor designs. Full-scale manufacturing could begin within 5 to 7 years of regulatory approval, with production potentially reaching 1 reactor per day within a decade. Some analysts project we would need to achieve production rates of 1 reactor per hour to fully replace fossil fuel usage by 2050. American competitiveness remains crucial. The U.S. pioneered many of these technologies decades ago, but countries like China now make major investments in advanced nuclear designs. Maintaining technological leadership alongside safety and security requires thoughtful policy evolution. For decades, nuclear energy has faced an understandable yet challenging, not in my backyard mentality, despite compelling data showing it's far safer than fossil fuel alternatives. But as society grapples with exploding energy demands, particularly from nascent generative AI, these fears may need to give way to practical necessity. The first chart in this piece tells the real story. When populations need energy for growth and prosperity, they find ways to produce it. Progress wins regardless. The real question is whether we'll meet those growing energy needs with fossil fuels or seize the opportunity to scale nuclear technology that can both match our expanding requirements and reduce environmental impact. We have the technical capabilities. Now we need the social and political will to deploy them. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week. If you like this video, please hit like, subscribe, and leave any comments you might have. You might also want to check out some of my other interviews. We try to dig into the problems that make Americans so pessimistic about the next generation, but we also interview people whose work doesn't get the headlines, but they make life better for society every day. Given humanity's steady progress over the last 275 years, it's likely that there's never been a better time to have been born than today. Join us for perspectives on today's challenges and opportunities.